Good evening, everyone. So I'll firstly read out the Chairman's introduction before we get going. So this is a meeting of the Council held in public. It is not a public meeting. There is no fire drill planned, so if the fire alarm sounds, please leave by the exit nearest the large screen at the front of the room and proceed down the fire exit to the courtyard. Once it is safe to return, councillors will receive a text message. Officers will also advise when it is safe to return to the meeting. We're recording the meeting this evening using our webcasting system. The webcast will be transmitted live and will be available on the Council's website following the meeting. All mobile devices should be switched off or set to silent so the meeting is not interrupted by ringtones. Thank you. So with that, I'll move on to agenda item 1, apologies for absence. I think if we have one here from Councillor Callaghan. Agenda item 2, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest from any members? No. Moving on, agenda item 3, minutes. Confirmation of the minutes of the meeting of the Basildon Area Committee held on the 7th of November 2024. Could I take that? Do we require a vote? So, yeah, for formality of vote, all in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. Agenda item 4, community spotlight. So this item on the agenda offers an opportunity for a local voluntary organisation to inform the Area Committee of their work. And with that, if I hand over to Miriam Chalkley, the founder/director of the Flex Youth and Community Group. Over to you, Miriam.
Hi everyone. Okay, so my name is Miriam Chalkley and I am the founder and director of the Flex Youth and Community Group. Just a really brief summary of what we are and what we do. We are an organisation based here in Basildon. I've been in Basildon for over 30 years. I've grown up in Basildon and I'm very, very passionate about my community. We are an organisation that primarily supports ethnically diverse and socially deprived young people. We found that when we started, actually, there was more need to expand into not just the young people, but the families as well, surrounding Basildon. So we provide provisions such as youth clubs, sports and dance activities as well. We go where the need is. So the young people tell us what they want. I can't say no. And we make it happen because we're directly responding to what they're asking us for. So over the last 2 years since we've been operating as a CIC, we have seen we're now at 250 young people come through our doors. So our engagement has been really, really good. We just got more and more young people coming through the door with more issues, and we're just kind of taking it upon ourselves to tackle them. I think all too often we can sit here as community members and say, oh, we need this and we're not doing that and we're not doing that. But as a collective, we're actually just making it happen with the help of Basildon Council. So the communities team has been absolutely incredible in supporting us along our journey, and we've grown really, really quickly. So we've just the organisation has grown and we've had to grow with it. We have been awarded some money via the National Lottery and the LDP to help us to meet the needs that we have within the community. And a lot of the work that we're doing, we found that over 50% of our work is around sport and physical activity. So that's very much where we're driving Flex, because that's the interests of the young people and the families that we work with. They're passionate about football, they're passionate about dance. A lot of our older cohort, they're now expressing interest in swimming, because for a lot of black and brown families, it's a little bit of a taboo that we don't swim, and there's this real fear of water, and we're finding a lot of parents actually want to learn to swim so that they can take their kids to swimming lessons and they can do that stuff out. Swimming lessons are very expensive, for somebody who hasn't got that kind of money, so they want to be able to learn to swim so they can, these are just the examples of things that we do. So we want to be able to facilitate things like that. But the big thing that we're driving this year is the Sports Academy, the Flex Sports Academy, which, excuse the pun, but we really think it's going to be a big game changer for all of us. So we're really kind of trying to drive that and promote that side of things via physical activity, purely because we don't want these young people to kind of become a symptom of their circumstance, because they haven't got the money to be able to attend certain things, or because maybe they might fall into trying to make money, so fall into the gang affiliation and the antisocial behaviour. You know, you might get a young person that is actually shoplifting because they haven't got anything to eat for lunch, which, if that becomes easy, it can kind of amalgamate into a bigger issue kind of thing. So we're just making sure that cost isn't a barrier for these young people to come into our services and access their sports training and things like that. And hopefully we've got these ladders of social mobility so that maybe they can come into doing apprenticeships with us or with other organisations, or maybe find work with, you know, maybe some of our partnering organisations as well, to kind of give them that leverage to level up. We talk a lot about levelling up, but we need to be a core part of that. I could talk all day about how amazing our young people are, and I'm not going to bore you with all of their individual stories and quirks and things like that, but we're seeing a big change in one of the things is one of our young people came in as a self-harmer, coming from a black family as well. We were finding that she couldn't communicate what was going on because culturally mental health can be a difficult subject for people to talk about, because all too often, with every bit of respect, some of the parents are saying, go and pray about it. Which absolutely, if that's aligns with your cultural and your religious beliefs, that's great. But it's about speaking to these parents and also telling them that there are practices in place, such as counselling and things like that. So we're just working within the remit that we have and within the skills that we have with trusted adults, with culturally competent adults as well, to actually talk to these young people and kind of give them not only the resources and signposting, but give them the skills to be self-sustainable in the community and know that they can actually fall back on us and talk to us. So one of the young people that was self-harming is just gone to Stubbers with us and done these high ropes activities, walking backwards and doing all kinds of really, really sporty, fear-mongering stuff, and she did great, and she wants to be, you know, a young representative. They want to form their own kind of council now where they make the decisions. We do pay it forward, which is the last thing I'm going to talk about because otherwise I'll keep going on. But we do pay it forward, so there is that social, that active citizenship. They'll go into a park every holiday. We do an activity where they have to do a good deed in order to get a reward. Over the summer, we went into the parks, we did litter picking, we come and tidy their own hub space kind of thing. We do a little bit of organising. We do all sorts of activities that benefit the community, and then they're treated with a reward. So it was laser tag. We took some of them into London to the O2 to do Toca Social, which are things that they are not going to experience outside of us. These are, for some of them, once in a lifetime opportunities that they may not do again, you know. So we're really showing them that if you do good, you get good. It's a little bit like a work and a job. You go in there, you do your job, and you get paid at the end of the week, at the end of the month, and something like that. So we're kind of, you know, supporting them in that journey as we go along. So that's Flex. We're just making sure that that we're just there for them more than anything else, and being positive and just showing people in the community that there are really nice teens, and heroes wear hoodies too, you know. So I think it's really, really important that we kind of push that, and we shift some of the narratives around these young people by giving them opportunities to be wonderful and great, and removing costs as that barrier is brilliant. And hopefully we'll get this sports academy and we'll get the future Saka out there, and they came from Flex and our good old Basildon. So that's all I'm going to say about Flex.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Miriam. May I speak, I'm sure I speak on behalf of the committee and say, you know, thanking you for your service to the borough and the community. I think the role that you play in the work that you put in is inspirational, and I think the role that you play is really integral to the social fabric of Basildon. Certainly, you know, the work you do around social, you know, community cohesion, social integration, and social mobility as well, I think is really important. I think the impact you have on lives, particularly vulnerable people, is huge. So I think you play a massive role in the social fabric, and I think you really do deserve recognition for that. And absolutely for myself, I'm actually a big believer in the benefits of sport. And while you say the next Saka, I'd probably say hopefully the next Jared Bowen, but that's just my own allegiances if anyone indulge me. But I'd certainly encourage you to submit submit an expression of interest for the next round of area committee funding as well, because the work you do is exactly what the area committee was set up to do, to support community groups in Basildon that do essentially the unsung heroes in the borough. So yeah, Miriam, thank you ever so much for your presentation. Wonderful. I think with that, then we'll move forward on to the next agenda item on funding considerations. So we have eight funding considerations to be discussed this evening. We'll have to hand over to Mr. Toombs for the first item, which is deliberate a £1,500 investment for delivery of the Crunch service being delivered in Basildon from the Believe in Basildon Fund. Over to you, Mr. Toombs.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so the Area Committee asked to consider funding the Crunch service in Basildon on the 29th of March from the Believe in Basildon Fund revenue. The Crunch acts as a household waste recycling centre, which can be located in different locations throughout the borough. The aim is to provide an alternate solution to residents who may be unable to take their waste items to the local tip. The Crunch sites will operate on Saturday 29th in the morning from 9 till 12.
Thank you very much, Mr. Toombs. Any comments from members on this funding item? Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and just like to first of all thank Miriam for the excellent presentation on the brilliant work of Flex Youth Club. And one of my first visits was to Flex Youth Club, and what a fantastic evening I had with the young people that you support over there. Brilliant sense of community that you've created, and brilliant questions and dialogue that the young people. I expected to go there, as I said to you privately, I expected to go there to be able to talk about the work of the council, and was quite rightly challenged by the young people there. And it's right that we listen to young people. They are the future of the borough, and it's important that we listen to them and their views and have that shaping council policy. And that was certainly one of the most enlightening visits I've had. So just want to place that on record, and thank you for that. Just coming to the Crunch, Mr. Chairman, it was a brilliant success over the summer period. It was great to be able to replicate that again in November, and I know in the one that we funded last time at the Jolly Fry that took place was very well received by residents, and I know it's something that has been commented on many times around when we'll be reintroducing the Crunch, and I think this is a good opportunity for us to do that, so I fully support it.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ferguson. Any comments from any other members of the committee? Lovely. In that case, I think we'll go to the vote on the approval of this. So, yep, Councillor Brown.
Yeah, just one small thing. I was in a meeting earlier this afternoon with Mr Henry, and we were discussing fly tipping across our borough, and the fact that we've been cited as one of the district councils who's experienced a large volume of fly tipping, and I think you said you were number one for the amount of fly tipping that we have had. But what is amazing is that our teams have been able to remove that, and that we now have a plan in place to help our residents in terms of our weekly bin collections, but also to support that, the Crunch. Because often we have bulky items, we have, we've cleared out the garage, we've built a new bed for a child, or whatever it might look like, a fallen down fence, whatever it is. And the Crunch gives an opportunity for families to be able to do the right thing, to bring that recycling across, bring that rubbish to us. But what I'd also I want to put a bit out of plea right now. We've got a fantastic programme in the borough where we are repurposing bicycles. So if you have a bicycle that you can bring along to that Crunch, please do so. I'm not quite sure if it's 200 and something, around about 250 bicycles that our teams have now been able to repurpose and give to people in need. And so I would really ask, as well as bringing all the things you don't want anymore, if there are things that you think can be recycled and reused within our borough, please bring them along, because they are vital to many of our residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Brown. Oh.
And can I just add to that I think it's really important that even if those are bikes that you think might not be in a position to be used, we were working very closely with our excellent colleagues at Pedal Power, so they will use their mechanics to bring bikes that you think may be beyond reasonable use back into play. So it's those also.
Fantastic. Right, unless there are any other comments, we'll move to the vote on this funding item. So all in favour? Fantastic, that's unanimous. So moving on to the second funding consideration. So it's £2,500 funding award to Bar and Bus Trust from the Believe in Basildon Fund from Revenue. So David Toombs, back over to you.
Thank you, Chair. The Bar and Bus, it's a state-of-the-art mobile bus. They offer detached youth work, taking their bus throughout the borough. They are seeking funding from the Basildon Area Committee towards the cost to provide a youth mentor, working with young people from the DeSalle and Basildon Lower Academy secondary schools to deliver one-to-one mentoring sessions with a youth worker. The funding will allow 12 young people to take part in the programme, and they will receive referrals from the school. The £2,000 and £2,500 is towards the total cost of the project of £5,574.
Thank you very much, Mr Toombs. Any members like to come in on this first? Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr Chairman. Yeah, I fully support the recommendation here tonight. As we've heard from Miriam talking about the importance of youth work services that take place within the borough, we can never have a shortage of positive role models for young people to be able to engage with. It's a school that exists within our area committee. Youth mentors are positive influences. They create safe spaces and opportunities for young people, and I think this is something that we should all support.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Councillor Brown.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to go to one of their meetings and sit and discuss what work they did as volunteers and as a group of adults, and also meet some young people that were part of that mentoring scheme, and what a fantastic ambassadors they were for the programmes that they run. Speaking to those young people, that to me, everybody looks 12, but you know, they did show me they were probably about 19, 20, and to listen to those young people and how powerfully that they felt that they were having an impact on young people, and listen to those young people talk about what a positive influence that would have made if that kind of person had been in their lives earlier. As a teacher, you know, we really value the importance of positive influences in young people's lives, and people that young people trust. It's no good me saying, you know, but I'm your teacher, I'm your year leader, I'm your head teacher, why don't you want to come and talk to me? It's vital that we have people in our communities that our young people feel comfortable with, who respect and vitally trust, and that person is properly trained and has the support around them in order to guide that young person into having opportunities to make good choices and therefore be able to have better lives. And so I think something like the Bar and Bus is just such a vital part of that jigsaw in the number of community groups that we have working within our borough, and particularly in the area that we represent, where we have many young people that don't always have those positive role models in their lives and are definitely looking for them. And if we can support groups that provide that and have a track record of showing that young people do respond to them, trust them, value that service, and then I'd really, you know, highly recommend that we do support this, and that if you have the opportunity to go along and talk to those people who do work with Bar and Bus, it's really, a really important thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I completely agree with everything you say. I think you're absolutely spot on. I had the pleasure to visit the team at Bar and Bus myself yesterday, and I think it was really heartwarming to see kind of young people getting involved in supporting kind of the fellow people of their own age. And I think also Bar and Bus, what they do is kind of offering opportunities not just in kind of pastoral care for kind of pupils at De La Salle's, the school mentioned. I know they work across South Essex, including in the Basildon Borough. But they offer youth worker qualifications to support skills for people that might want to pursue a career in supporting young people. So I think that aspect is a real string to their bow, and another reason why I think they're really, really worthy of our support and funding this evening. And I know that, again, Bar and Bus, while they do fantastic work in supporting pupils in schools, they work in and outside of term time as well, which I think, given that the challenges around mental health. I think that that those challenges, particularly for kind of children and young adults, has been really it's been really well documented with those. So I can't speak highly of Bar and Bus enough, and I'm really pleased to be supporting the awarding of funding for them this evening. So I think unless there are any other comments from members of the committee, we'll move to the vote. So in that case, all in favour of the funding consideration. Wonderful, thank you. That is unanimous. So moving on to the third funding consideration item up this evening is £12,000 of a funding award to the Basildon and Pitsea Cricket Club from the Believe in Basildon Fund. So Mr Toombs, back over to you.
Thank you, Chair. The investment to the cricket club will fund a new artificial cricket wicket, which is been identified as essential for their training and development across all ages. The Historical Club has been in existence since before the Second World War and has 6 adult teams, 5 playing in competitive leagues and 1 playing friendlies. The club also has 100 junior members aged 7 to 18.
Thank you, Mr Toombs. If I kick off, again, as I mentioned following Miriam's fantastic presentation, I'm a big believer in the benefits of sport, whether it's mental health, physical activity, well-being, life chances as well. And I think, delighted to be, supporting this funding consideration this evening. I think, David, you've said for how long the cricket club has been operating in the borough, and I think, you talk about the social fabric of the community again. I think, the sporting clubs play a really important role in that, and I think this will help keep the club going and allow them to put on hopefully more games, more clubs, more children that can benefit. And I think obviously cricket's for all ages too, of course. So I think this is something that will support the entire community, and I encourage everyone to go out and get involved with their local sports club. So any comments from members of the committee? Councillor Brown.
I think, I've just said to Jack, really £12,000. But if you think about it, many of these types of sports are expensive to play, they're expensive to run. And for many of our young people, they're excluded from that because of finances. So by us supporting this club in this way, we're giving more opportunity to more students, to more kids across our borough and adults as well who want to play cricket. Often, we look at our cricket teams down the line, and the majority of them are, from public schools with wealthier backgrounds who had the opportunities to experience sport in a different way and to compete in a different way and be more competitive because of the advantages they had. And so I think it's really important that we support grassroots sports in order that it has a wider access. So I'll be voting yes this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. I think you're absolutely right on opening up opportunity. And I think, Mr Toombs, if I can come back to you, I think in terms of the awarding of that funding would be, if I'm right, is that to support a kind of a new all-weather pitch at the club? So again, we're talking about sport all year round rather than necessarily a summer sport. So I think just in terms of where this is going and the output and the benefits it will deliver, which is an all year round benefit. Taylor.
I'm going to just reference also in relation to being able to support community groups in this way, an all-weather pitch helps the club in their sustainability considerably, because the regular maintenance of a fine turf grass wicket is obviously very expensive, and that obviously can be that is cost that gets passed on to those that want to use it. So this is an investment, as Councillor Brown said, in being able to support more and more people to be able to access the club through making it a more affordable sport more generally.
Thank you, Mr Taylor. I think it's a fantastic addition. So unless there are any comments from officers or members, we'll go to the vote on this one. So again, all those in favour? Fantastic. That's unanimous. So moving on to funding consideration number 4, so halfway. So £5,000 of funding award to the Basildon Sport and Leisure Club from the Believe in Basildon Fund. So Mr Toombs, back over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Basildon Sport and Leisure Football Club is located in the Gardens Lane South and currently home to a number of local football teams. They both have both male and female teams. The club are requesting funding to replace 2 outside changing rooms which have fallen into disrepair, and also to support the improvements in their parking area, which is prone to flooding. The breakdown of funding will be £3,000 towards the changing facilities and £2,000 to support the improvements in the parking area.
Fantastic, Mr. Toombs. I think I know again it's supports kind of teams, both male and men and women, male and female as well. And I think there's probably, Mr. Toombs, if I'm right, one particularly important part of this funding is kind of changing rooms to again encourage, certainly for the benefit of women teams as well, men and women, but to encourage women to take part in the sport as well and kind of remove one of those potential barriers from women taking part.
Yes, that's totally correct. Obviously, the stipulation in female football is that there needs to be provided changing rooms, and with the development of this, obviously it will be more welcoming, and also for those junior teams as well, somewhere they can change, especially when the weather is not so good.
Thank you, Mr. Toombs. Any members of the committee wish to comment? So, in that case, we'll go straight to the vote. So, again, all those in favour of approval? Fantastic. That is unanimous. Moving on to the next funding consideration, number 5. So, £550 of funding to ATF from the Community Priority Fund, Friends Ward. Mr. Toombs.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, the Achieve, Thrive and Flourish Youth Club provides a welcoming space for teenagers throughout the local community. They offer a variety of activities for young people, including physical fitness, teamwork and social interaction and life skills. The funding will be used to purchase equipment such as chopping boards, saucepans, frying pans and craft materials, as well as a karaoke machine and games to enhance the youth club experience and sessions.
Thank you, Mr. Toombs. Would any members like to come in on this item? Councillor Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Toombs, for your report there. I've met with ATF on several occasions and attended a number of their programmes and have seen firsthand the high-quality youth work that they deliver within the borough that I know also complements the work that Miriam was speaking about with Flex earlier on tonight. I think it's incredibly valuable, the life skills that young people are taught and the way that they're also engaged in the practical activities. As you were listing them there, Mr. Toombs, I was thinking of how we could do some joint intergenerational activities with young people. Until you said karaoke machine, I think we'll leave that just to the young people to enjoy themselves. But fully support the recommendations that have been brought forward tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Ferguson. Councillor Brown.
Yeah, likewise, I had the opportunity to go and visit there. And what's really interesting is seeing those young people from a variety of ages and the way in which those sort of young 10-year-olds really look up to those 16, 17, 18-year-olds. And the way in which ATF have been able to then train some of those older people, those older young people that have gone through the programme and are now 16, 17. And we met with a couple who are now presently doing their qualifications and going to college to train to be a youth worker. And it's really, inspirational is perhaps, I don't think it is too strong a word, to see the way in which they have a positive influence on those younger people. And I'm watching them in the kitchen. The night I was there, they were doing some cooking skills. And some of those young people talking about that now they can go home and now they can cook for themselves and how empowering they find that, because the adults in their lives could still be at work when they get in the evening. And there was a young girl, she must have been about 11, 12, telling me how she has now started to teach her little sister who was, much, much younger. And how listening to her, and how responsible she was and the skills that and the confidence that she got through that programme. I think often youth workers, they just don't understand the full impact they have, not just on that one young person, but on the ripple effect for the other people that are in that young person's life. So, yeah, this is something, obviously, I brought this forward, and it's something definitely that I would ask us all to support this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. So, unless there are any other comments from members of the committee, we'll go to the vote. So again, all those in favour? Lovely. That is approved unanimously. So on to funding consideration number 6. So £3,726 of funding award to Time from the Community Priority Fund, Friends Ward. Mr. Toombs, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, Time are a community group who work throughout the borough, collaborating with lots of other organisations. They offer musical sessions to people of all abilities, including with other community groups, specifically around dementia. and they've worked with People Place recently on a collaboration. Time runs a music session on the Monday evening, which nurtures the interest of music and working with children and adults with disabilities and learning difficulties, and they encourage them to take up musical instruments, listen to music, and most importantly socialise and have an enjoyable experience. Time are expanding, and then therefore need funding to support and purchase much needed equipment, including speakers, ear defenders, art materials, transmitters, music stands, handheld instruments, and lots of other small items.
Thank you, Mr. Toombs. Any members wish to comment? Councillor Brown.
Yeah, again, I had the opportunity to meet with this group. They're a very diverse group, the people who access this service, ranging from young teens to, the full gambit of age. And again, quite a wide range of disabilities, quite a lot of neurodivergent young people that also come along there and find it a safe space to be and to talk, and the music almost is a side thing to what is actually happening there. It's a place where people can feel accepted and understood and have social time, which is we all need that, don't we? We all need to feel part of a group and have friendships, and some people tell me about the relationships they've formed whilst they've been there, whether that was friendship or a romantic relationship, and how they've found the ability to be themselves in a space that is safe, in a space without criticism, how powerful that was. And the fact that they get to enjoy music and dance and all of those things and play instruments is an addition to that. But obviously that brings people great joy as well. It's a really fantastic organisation, and I would encourage you all to support it. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Councillor Brown. Would any other members like to comment? In that case, then we'll go ahead to the vote. So, again, all those in favour of approval? Fantastic. That is unanimous. So, moving on to the penultimate funding consideration for this evening. So, £1,970 of funding award to Gateway Radio from the Community Priority Fund, St Martin's Ward. Mr. Toombs, back over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, Gateway Radio is a local radio station for Basildon residents. They have been serving the community since 2007, covering lots of local events and activities. They welcome a number of radio club volunteers from all walks of life, and are seeking funding to run some additional media sessions throughout school holidays. If they are successful in receiving the funding, they will be able to provide 16 days of training for local young people. The sessions will support young people to understand key media skills, focusing on presenting, producing, editing and recording, while also working towards a qualification in media.
Fantastic, thank you, Mr. Toombs. If I can come in first, I had the pleasure and the opportunity to see the fantastic work that Gateway Radio does firsthand, and I know that again they work with young people that are both vulnerable and neurodivergent as well, and I've seen firsthand that the fantastic effect that the good work and the support that Gateway Radio provides in supporting the life chances and well-being of the people that it helps. So I know that going beyond that, Gateway Radio I think provides qualifications, kind of media skills training for young people that can serve as a springboard into future employment, career opportunities. And I think some of the young people that have taken media training at Gateway have gone on to work, I think, in Sky Sports, Talk Sport, some really kind of reputable big names in the world of media and sports. So yeah, a real pleasure to support the good work that Gateway Radio does. So I think any comments from members of the committee to add to that? No. In that case, then we will move to the vote. So all those in favour? Fantastic. That is unanimous. So moving on to the final funding consideration up for discussion this evening, which is £1,500 of a funding award to Peaceful Place from the Community Priority Fund at St Martin's Ward. Mr. Toombs, back over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Peaceful Place are a passionate about creating opportunities that empower individuals living with dementia to lead fulfilling and meaningful lives. They received a number of requests, boxer-size classes, and after a trial, they've applied for funding to enable them to deliver 15 tailored boxer-size sessions for their participants. A number of participants used to be boxers, so they're really interested about reconnecting with their sport.
Thank you, Mr. Toombs. Councillor Yacoub.
Thank you, Chair. So I had the pleasure of visiting Peaceful Place, and it was honestly a really nice, welcoming, warm space. And it's amazing when you go in there, you don't realise how much there is, and there's so much to do. And Charlotte, who runs the place, was very passionate about it very much being led by those people who come to visit and who use the centre. And it was around setting the precedence where if you have dementia, it doesn't necessarily mean that that's it, you know, life is at stop for you. It was about empowering them to say you can still live very fulfilling lives. And the importance of some of these activities is that the impact it has on their cognitive abilities and also just their confidence, because a lot of the times when you have that dementia diagnosis, it can feel really scary, but having a space like this means that they don't feel alone. And another part of the work that Charlotte has been doing is actually looking at the stigma when it comes to people of BAME origin, and the fact that because within some of those communities sometimes there is an idea of looking after themselves within their own communities, it's very hard for people to reach out and to seek support. But support like this can be really empowering, because part of this work isn't just helping people with dementia, but it's also helping those family members who are supporting that person with dementia. And so there's a lot of like outreach work going on from there as well to say, how do we get rid of the stigma and talk about it? And it's very much led by them. So, you know, when you think about these type of activities, the traditional thing is having like crafts to do. But they also had this wood shop, which was because like they had male users with dementia who wanted to work with their hands, and they were able to cater for that. So it's very much led by them. So really pleased to be supporting this boxer size classes, because like you said, it's something that people have actually requested and asked for. So yeah, honestly, it's an amazing place, and I felt really inspired after visiting it.
Thank you ever so much, Councillor Yacoub. I think, as you've said, your testimony, I think, is exactly why we set up the area committee. And yeah, from the presentation, it sounds like your Peaceful Place are very worthy of this funding, and it'll have a positive impact in the community. So I'll be supporting as well. And I think, unless there are any further comments, we'll go to the vote. Fantastic. So all those in favour of approval of the funding? Fantastic. That is unanimous. So with no further funding considerations, Councillor Brown.
Yeah, I just want to say one little thing, if you'll indulge me, Andy. I think it's really important that, you know, as councillors, we often get bogged down with those 5 things we're trying to do, and I'm not going to publicise them again. But one of them is thinking about making our communities safer. The things that we have done tonight and the funding that we're giving those groups make our communities safer in the fact that they make people feel that they belong, that they have a place that is part of their lives, something that is important to them. There are positive people in their lives that can help them achieve whatever their goal might be. Because often, whatever age we're at, we need people that surround us who are positive and who share our interests and share our highs and lows and our joys. And by doing that, we're enabling those people to have a safer, more secure, happier lives. We've massively invested this evening in young people, and that is so crucially important. Because for a lot of our young people, they don't have safe spaces to be in. And as a council, we need to enable our local communities to have those safe spaces for our young people. And I think we should be proud tonight that we are investing in those young people, but also recognising there's other people in our community who also need safe spaces to be, places that are safe both physically but also emotionally. And I just want to say that. So thank you for indulging me, Andy. I appreciate it.
So, no, you're ever so welcome, Councillor Brown. Thank you very much. So with that, we'll move on to agenda item number 6, so street cleansing and pride team. So Mr Hendry, over to you.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, councillors, for allowing us to come along and talk to you about a bit of an update across environmental services this evening. This builds on some of the presentations and work that's been done previously around cleansing and Pride team services, and I'll shortly get on to introducing my colleague who'll be known to you from his many years with the council across a number of roles in Rob Baker. Rob's recently taken on a new role within my team. Late last year, I had a bit of a reorganisation of the services under my control, and they typically cover things that, you know, a lot of the front-facing services that our residents value, that provide a real impact on the look and feel and the way that we feel about our neighbourhoods. And essentially, I looked at the way services were grouped and split them into two things. There are services that are provided uniformly across the borough, things such as waste, environmental crime, and the support services, and I've called those borough operations. And the second grouping is neighbourhood services, and that includes things like cleansing, parks, Pride teams, grounds maintenance, things that really affect the look, the feel, and the level of happiness that we feel and connection with our community and our immediate neighbourhoods. As part of that, I needed two people to head up those relevant streams, and I'm glad to share that following that internal recruitment, Rob Baker, who was previously our Parks and Countryside Manager, has been successful in one of those roles. And for me, the big change here is about joining together the different pieces of the services that we provide, but also making sure that they are delivered in a way which meets the needs of our residents, and appreciating that different parts of the borough are different and so will need to be treated in a slightly different way, but having that clarity and that consistency of the way in which we're delivering our services, and that ability for our teams to get to know the areas they're working in, and be much more closely connected to both our communities and to what's needed on the ground. Rob's going to talk about operationally what that means for us, but a big part of this has come from talking to our teams, particularly our cleansing teams and our Pride teams, who have said to me through the course of the service redesign process that they feel best empowered when they know their community, they know where they're working, and they know that they are empowered to, rather than litter picking a street every week because it's on their rota, to say, well, actually, this street doesn't need litter picking this week. I'm going to cut back that bush, or I'm going to dig out that channel, or clear back that pathway, or do something else, or have the ability to turn around to Rob and say, actually, I could do with an extra pair of hands this week to do X, Y, and Z in my area. So Rob will talk you through the programme about how we're building that up. This I see as the start of a conversation. I imagine that Rob and each of the named area supervisors, who will become very known to you, no doubt, will be coming back to this area committee in future to give you some updates, and I'm hoping that today's the start of that conversation, and that there's a dialogue which takes place between this area committee and, more importantly, with our residents within each of the wards that we represent moving forward. So I'll pass over to Rob, who will talk a bit more about how he's going to be approaching the role and what you can expect from him moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, councillors. Yes, as James said, I have been with Basildon for many years now. I actually started in Basildon in 1986 in street cleansing. So I've come full circle without the broom, back to street cleansing. But yeah, so I've been in the role for just over 6 weeks now, and we're looking at closely looking at all the services across that. There is a review that we're doing of the service provision at the moment. That's which includes route mapping, and like James is saying, it's about going to areas that require it more, and understanding them frequencies. I met with the teams this week, and I was saying to James, over 50 staff I've met just in this week to talk about the team plan that we're putting forward, and how that maps out across the year going forward, and they're all very engaging and want to do a great job. So it's really pleasing. I don't underestimate the challenge, but I think it's exciting. Worked with my work in parks. I've always been very passionate about delivering good service in parks. I can reflect that across our street cleansing services as well, and our pride teams, and our grounds maintenance. So just carrying on with the areas, so high impact areas, we want to target shops, improve our shopping fronts where people visit more. We use the EPA standards as a guidance in how we're doing, where we're doing well. The EPA is the Environment Protection Act, and will give us guidance in the times that we should, our frequencies of being there and how quick we can return it back to top standard. The implementation of the new routes, we're looking towards the end of May. We're starting more of the work on that next week with some standard setting. So I think one of the things I want to get across to the team is that they understand what the expectation of us is. I think it's key that they understand what's wanted of we expect of them, so we can manage that performance. Future service, as part of that plan, I've created a Gantt chart that sets out all the way to April 2026, when we'll be looking at the grounds maintenance contracts and how that all fits in with all what we do in our neighbourhoods. There's 3 options that are going to Cabinet later this month, is it? No,
March, isn't it?
March. In March. Looking at how we can balance and make that adaptable with our pride teams, and our pride teams can support that in reductions, and where, we talk about fear of crime and safety within our streets. Some of our shrub heads looking at reductions needed. So all of that is part of the plan. Again, that's the implementation of that is April 2026. The team for this area, for the Basildon area, is led by Lee Summerfield, as a good understanding. Actually lives in this part of the borough. Good background on street cleansing. He will be your direct contact. I'm working with Lee. I've worked with Lee for a number of years. I'm sure he's going to do well working alongside me. Under that team, currently is the mechanical sweeping, beat sweeps, mobile teams, the graffiti team, and Pride. Next thing I was just going to move on if there was any questions for me.
Councillor Coop?
Just to say, will you be able to speak to how this will all link into the in-cab technology? Because obviously you would have a lot of data when recording all of this, and will it be connected to what we're doing with in-cab technology?
Thank you, Councillor Yacoub. So you're quite right to flag up the work that we've done on in-cab technology in the way services. That has been iterative. We've had a number of trials of things over the years to get to the point where we've got the system that's going to make a difference to the way that we deliver our services to residents, and an improvement in that. So as part of over the last few weeks, we've had drop-in sessions with the waste crews to start exploring what that looks like and what that's going to mean for them and how it will be used. And as part of that, I'd invited a number of my other teams into those sessions, and I've said, come along and see what it means for them, and also think about what that might mean for you. And part of what we're talking about, what Rob was talking about there about route mapping and things like that, will be actually having that data going back into the route mapping and the route optimization, so that we know. We talk about things like smart bins and not needing to drive out to a litter bin before it needs to be emptied. We want to know where we're getting increased reports of fly tipping, where there are increased reports of perhaps incidents of crime that we can then help to support through improving and enhancing grounds maintenance in those areas. So it's about feeding that data back in and being smarter in terms of where we have our resources. We don't have limitless budgets. We have to operate within our resources. So we have to make sure that we've got our resources where they're needed to make the most impact. And I think the data and the lessons we're learning from in-cab and what comes through the next phase of that will be really important to help shape that moving forward.
Yeah, I'd like to add, I think this is one of the really exciting parts about the new role. And when speaking to the teams, I can give you examples of a CRM that comes into us of an overflowing dog bin, and the process that piece of paper has to go through before the resident understands what we're doing. And that can be shut off at an instant. It can do so much more than that for our grounds maintenance operations, our parks operations. So yeah, I'm fully on board with that, and it's a really exciting part of the role.
Thank you, Mr. Hendry, Mr. Baker. Councillor Brown, if you'd like to come in.
I mean, obviously, you know, as a council, we say our number one top priority was fixing the bins. And that's sort of the tagline, but we mean so much more than that. We mean all the things that you and your teams are doing right now. We know that everyone deserves a secure home, a safe home, but also a pleasant environment for themselves to live and raise their families. And the work that you are doing to ensure that, and using the technology to help you, and having those teams that are based within a certain area, and the knowledge that they can gain from that rather than spreading themselves out across the whole borough, I think it's a really intelligent way that you've reorganised everyone. And, you know, having Rob now on board and, you know, his years of experience, but also his knowledge of the borough. And we all know that certain parts of our borough have not been kept in the same way that other parts of our borough has. And by having teams that are based within a locality, it enables them to have that accountability for that locality, so that we as an area committee for those who are serving our wards can hold them to account. But also I'm sure that it gives a much better service, because they, like you were saying before, that not every street needs litter picking every day, but some need litter picking, you know, twice a day. Not everywhere needs a dog bin emptied every week, and other places that are very popular for dog walkers, etc. I don't have animals in my home, but I understand people do. You know, that some bins are much, you know, busier than others, and we've talked about that, haven't we, James? And so I think using the teams in this smarter way, using that data that Mariam is obsessed with, that I believe is useful, enables us to have a better service for our residents. And that's what it's about, isn't it? It's about ultimately enabling this borough to look and feel the best it can. And we might just say fixing the bins, but like I say, it is a wider thing. It's your whole team that is enabling this borough to be clean and tidy, but a kind of place that we want to live in, that our future generations can thrive in. And we can only do that if the place looks decent and is decent. And so thank you for the work you're doing. And we will definitely be nagging you in future to make sure it is. So thank you, Rob.
Yeah. Any further questions or comments, Councillor Yacoub?
Yeah, just to say, obviously our number one priority is fixing the bins, and everything that you've set out complements and encompasses that. And when it comes to the way our community feels when they open the front door, you know, the way that they feel every day, it shapes how they see themselves, it shapes how they see the community and how they see the council. And I think it's so important, because what you've essentially outlined is that we have this comprehensive approach. We're looking at grounds maintenance, we're looking at parks, we're looking at street cleansing, bins, fly tipping, and then of course the crunch also, you know, is supporting that, because it's stopping people from fly tipping and giving them a solution that's workable and easy and accessible. So yeah, I think it's really good, and I think it's really important that we bring presentations like this to the area committee so that we can fully take ownership of these processes. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. One of the things that I'm talking to all the staff about is that when we visit a location, we're the front facing of the council, and when we visit a location, it doesn't. And that's the impression that we'll give. If the frequency isn't quite right, that's my concern, but I need to find that resources. I'm telling them, you just concentrate on when you visit there, the perception of you from that resident is a good one. And I think that's exactly where you're coming from there with when people are opening the door. That guy that sweeps in the corner when he goes there, it's not just driving past because there's a car parked in the way. they will get out and do that extra bit. That is going to mean our frequencies are going to change. However, when you're there, when they are there, it will be a good job. So that's something I'm really trying to drive into the staff at the moment. What I would like to do is come along back to future meetings, and I can update you on the progress and that, and eventually give you a mapping, digital map as well, of our frequencies. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Baker. Any other members like to comment? Councillor Davies.
Just wanted to say, Rob, I appreciate all your time that you've spent in parks, and it was really, the times I had where you've given me really valuable advice and help, and I know that in this new position you're going to do well. So thanks, Rob, for your service in parks, and I look forward to working with you in the environmental areas. I just wanted to ask, we talked about frequency of rubbish being dumped and fly tipping. Have we come up with any solutions with how that can be monitored, and how certain areas are going to be more targeted than others? Because this certain set of bushes down this alley, you always find litter, rubbish, maybe even paraphernalia there, and and a week later you clear it up, and the following week it's back again. I just wondered if we've got any strategies for tackling that sort of thing.
Thanks, Councillor. So I think the initial strategy is exactly what we've put in place, and that's creating these smaller areas where they'll get the ownership. So with a large cleansing team that's borough-wide, it could be multiple changes through holidays, covering holidays, and they're never in the same place. The idea of the area-based model is that they will get ownership, and it's that one team that works within there. So we will get to know our locations. I will work closely with Alan, the borough manager, who's got the enforcement team. So we will, where we've got known areas that we can target, I'll work with Alan to support me in those areas. But I think by coming down to an area model, that gives us more ownership and to understanding problems.
And I think if it's okay, just to come in to follow up Rob's points there, I think you're doing yourself a bit of a disservice, Rob, because I know the conversations that you're already having with the enforcement team to feedback from your team, so you can make sure that we are joining the pieces together. So there's a few key dates coming up for us as a borough. At March's cabinet, as we said earlier, there is a revised waste and recycling policy coming to cabinet in March. There is a large section on there around our approach to enforcement and what we consider enforceable and not enforceable in terms of fly tipping and littering. So that's an important date for the diary. And then obviously after that, the return to weekly residual waste collections on April the 28th marks a change where we're increasing the capacity for residents to have more. You've heard tonight about the impact of the crunch that's there as well. So after that, it will be a case of, we've got our recycling teams, we've got education resources, but we also have the data coming back in to go back to that point around where our hotspots are. That then goes into the intelligence of the officers, cleansing and environmental enforcement officers on the ground to be able to do that work. And over and above all, it's the best results we get are where our residents turn around to us and work with us to hold people to account where they are undertaking that littering, that fly tipping. And we've had a number of good results where we've been able to work with our community to keep having those conversations and to support them in ultimately giving them a neighbourhood they can feel proud of. So there's a few things coming up this year that are worth noting, and where we are now isn't where we'll be in 6 months' time. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you very much, Mr Hendry. Councillor Brown, back over to you.
Yeah, I think it is also about supporting our residents and empowering them to do the right thing, if you like. We all know fortnightly bin collections does not empower people to do the right thing. And I feel that moving forward, you're talking about in 6 months' time, by then we will be having weekly black bin collections, enabling people to do the right thing. We're going to have crunches in each area, enabling people to have an option to do the right thing. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, James, you said earlier today that around 80% of our fly tipping is just household rubbish. A very small amount, around 20%, is actual commercial fly tipping. And if we can enable our residents to have the option to get rid of the junk in a way that is convenient, that is easy and that is sustainable, through those weekly collections, through the crunches, we're going to take down a lot of the work that our teams have at the moment in dealing with fly tipping. And then we can get really serious about the criminals, because that's what the other 20% are. They are people that charge you less than the going rate to collect your kitchen, your bathroom you've had removed, the garden wall you've had knocked down, the skip that they give you for 60 quid rather than 200, and you don't ask any questions. Those people who are dumping professionally, if you like, and are criminals within our borough, we can then focus on those, focus on enforcing against those, rather than those families that have struggled to get rid of their black sacks. Because by having a plan to enable residents to be able to more easily and more sustainably get rid of the waste that they have from their homes, then your team can focus on what really matters, which is stopping criminal fly tippers in our borough.
Thank you very much, Councillor Brown. Councillor Hendry, Mr. Hendry rather, Mr. Baker, any other comments you'd like to make?
Just to say thank you for all your comments today, and the majority of the hard work goes to our teams, so we will take that on board and make sure that's fed back to our hard-working officers on the ground in the Basildon area, so thank you.
And I think certainly if I'd like to echo the comments of the other members of the committee, Mr. Hendry, Mr. Baker, in thanking you and the teams for everything you do in taking care of the little things that matter, that make such a difference in the borough. I think you and your teams and the people on the ground really are unsung heroes at Basildon Council, and I think again it's just important. I think member officer coordination is so very important to make sure we're responsive, and that the local issues, responsive to the local issues, and fostering that sense of local pride, which I think is so important and reverberates through so much in the community. And yeah, Mr. Baker, you're always welcome at this committee. So we'd love to have you back. Yeah, we'd love to have you back at the next one and those thereafter, of course. And I think thank you, Mr. Hendry, for pointing out that very important save the date, Monday the 28th of April, when we return to weekly bin collections and reverse the disaster that were the fortnightly black sack collections.
Underestimate how hard that's been for those teams and the work that James and his teams have done.
Yeah,
phenomenal.
Absolutely.
Phenomenal.
I think that yeah. Absolutely. I think the data really does tell the story in terms of the fly team. I think, Councillor Brown, you're absolutely right to raise, how going back to weekly bin collections on the 28th of April will allow us to focus on proper enforcement and going after the real bad guys, and of course cleaning up the borough. So yeah, with that, I think we'll bring that element of that item on the agenda to a close, and I think as that's the final item on the agenda, we'll bring the meeting to a close. So I think thank you everyone for attending and your contributions, and have a very safe journey home. Thank you. Good evening, everyone.